ambitious, maybe internationalization, why do we need a global mindset? And before to start, I would like to say a few words on why Alessia and we decided to present to you and discuss with you this topic. I think 1 year ago, Alessia contacted me on LinkedIn because we found like common expertise and interest and passion in internationalization, cross-cultural management, intercultural management. And so we tried to join forces and build a collaboration. And internationalization was one of the fields that we found a better option for our collaboration. And this is why then we decided to apply to Sietar Italian to present this webinar based on our experiences that is different, but also, and we will share this later with you, there are also like similarities and lessons learned from the two experiences that we want to share with you. My name is Viviana Premazzi, and you can pick from my accent and my name, I'm Italian, and I live in Malta. This is my 3rd year in Malta, and I moved in 2017. Before I was in Canada and then US for a short period of time. But then I moved to Malta to work for a private university as academic manager. After 1 year in this role, for health issues that I had, and also for other reasons related to Malta, and I would say also the Maltese people, I decided to stay, even if the company like went back to their country of origin, and so they terminate our contract. And I went back to what was my passion, my interest, my expertise. And before coming to Malta, I actually worked for 10 years in Italy with migrants, refugees, asylum seeker on integration, identity, and with different international organizations. And so I went back to my passion and my background, and I started Global Mindset Development GMD Malta with the idea here in Malta to help companies to develop a global mindset. So to have intercultural management training, cultural relocation support, mentoring, and internationalization, focus on Malta, but also to help like everyone in the world, let's say, to have a global mindset. So what I will share with you are some cases and stories from my clients on the people that I met in this in the last 2 years. Well, Alessia, she will have like first-hand experience in Iraq with the project that she was like leading there, and she will explain better than me later. So let's start with Malta and this post-colonial analysis of a multicultural society. So the first question I would like to ask you, and this first part of my session will be a little bit interactive, is that some of you, have you ever been to Malta? I know there are also Maltese, so in that case, they live in Malta. But for the others, have you ever been to Malta? Just yes and no if you want to type in the chat box. Yes, yes, yes. Not yet. Good. Not yet. Yeah, for sure I recommend you to come, but also you will understand later how, if you want to do business in Malta, it's better for you to come to Malta. And it's good because maybe if you have been to Malta, maybe you will have something to say also regarding the other question I will ask you like in a couple of minutes. So I will start with a few information about the Maltese context. So how it is Malta nowadays. And there are basically 2 important things to know about Malta before coming to Malta to doing business, or before even like starting to think about Malta in terms of businesses. Of course, we don't know how the world will be after this coronavirus, and we know that this coronavirus for sure will affect also the economy all over the world. But what is also interesting to understand what happened in Malta in the last few years, because there are also, let's say, lessons learned, and because also there is something that probably will stay and will remain and will become stronger after this coronavirus issue, and something that for sure it will change. So 2 important information here. So in the last 7 years, there was an increase in the population in Malta of about 17%. If you don't know anything about Malta, the population in Malta, there are around 450,000 people living in Malta. And in the last 7 years, there was an increase of 17%. This increase was mainly due to a booming economy. So the economy was one of the best economies in Europe, but also to the skill shortages. So in all the different sectors in Malta, there were no skills needed to do that kind of different jobs and work. This is why Malta was kind of forced to import foreign workers, and in 2018, 25% of people working in Malta were foreigners. And when I say foreigners, they are really from all over the world. You can have Italians, people from UK, Serbia, Macedonia, Pakistan, India, South Africa, Australia, and also Maltese second and third generation that due to the economy in Malta, they have decided to come back to Malta. So now another question for you. If you've ever been to Malta, or if you're not still, so far you haven't been to Malta, what's Maltese? If you have to say, what is Maltese? And when you work in intercultural management, we always show this iceberg, because in culture, there is something that it's easy to see. So the language, the food, but then there is also something that is difficult to see. So if you have to describe the Maltese, considering the cultural iceberg, what you will say, what you can share with us in the chat box, if you want to share something. I learned that you have to give 16-second time. So 24 washing hand and 16 to have someone typing something in the chat box. But let's see, maybe you can keep this answer for later. Okay, no. Okay, interesting. So the idea of internationalization and helping companies to come to Malta and understand Malta from a cultural point of view, or not Maltese, and not nationalities in Malta, but not Maltese. Yeah. This is, yeah, this is also linked probably to the data I shared before, because yeah, there is the word in Malta, actually. And so the idea of starting this internationalization, it came actually from the Italians company that they wanted to come to Malta. And from a meeting with the Italian Maltese Chamber of Commerce, where the former director, he told me, I used to say when they want to come to Malta, if you make the wrong step in Malta, you are dead. And it's true, because if you've ever been to Malta, you know that when you cross the street, you have to look right and not left, like in all the continental Europe, let's say. Because Malta was a British colony, and there's still something of this British heritage, and we will explore this a little bit later. So his idea was, if you make the wrong step, you are dead, like for real, but also in business. If you don't understand the context, and if you're coming to Malta thinking that Malta is like Italy, because it's close to Italy, because we're all Mediterranean, you will probably make big mistakes. And this is why this idea of internationalization, and this shares some of this like lesson learned with you. Again, I know here there is also a teacher of Maltese language, so Silvia cannot reply. But you can read these two like words maybe in your mind, and I can read these two words for you. The first word is bonjour, and the second word is all right. Both words are from Maltese, but maybe the two words can remind you some other languages that you know. And maybe in particular, they can remind you like Italian or some dialect in Italy, and English. And this are like two core that you can so that you have to have in mind when you come to Malta, to business, or when you come to Malta to live in Malta. This is something extremely important that you have to like keep in mind. Maltese is a Semitic language written in Latin script. So you have, yes, Arabic, but you have also words from English, Italian, and French, and you can actually read coming from a Latin script, a Latin alphabet. You can read Maltese, but then maybe you cannot understand, because that words are mainly Arabic with a mix of English and Italian. So to help our discussion today, I will use a couple of models from the intercultural management, intercultural communication. Of course, they are just like really few things. I will not consider all the dimension. I will just explore a couple of them. We will use Professor Hofstede, that developed these intercultural dimension models. And we will consider in particular the dimension related to individualism and collectivism for Malta. Professor Erin Meyer from INSEAD, we will consider trusting. And then we will also consider high context and low context culture. For the interculturalists, I know that you probably use this every day. For the others, there will be a lot to say, but we have like, I have like 20 minutes for my presentation, and in total we're 1 hour, so we cannot actually spend too many words, but feel free to contact us or contact Sietar Italia to explore this beautiful world of like interculturalism. So, sharing with you the first story. This was a client of mine, a boutique in Slima, and they shared this story with me when we started working together. When we did the first inauguration of our boutique in Slima, we organized it on a Sunday evening. It worked in Italy. We've always done that. Sunday, late afternoon, evening is the best time for a grand opening. But here, nobody showed up and nobody stopped to take a drink, and it was offered for free. So we were wondering what mistake we made. And also in this case, maybe some of you working in intercultural management, intercultural communication, you can already like pick something about what was a mistake or what they did that was not so good in the opening. And in this case, we will use Hofstede and this idea of individualist collectivism, considering, let's say, the Maltese Malta, and I will explain this also later. The lesson that we have learned is that in Malta, family is extremely important. So people will come to your opening if you're part of the family, if you'll build a strong relationship with them, that they consider you part of the family. But family means also that Sunday is the day, is family time. Sunday is the day you spend with your family. It's not only your close family, but all your relatives if you can. And this is something sometimes in mixed marriages, like foreign wife or foreign husband, they struggle because they don't want to spend all the Sunday, every Sunday with the family. But this is what it is extremely important in Malta. So Sunday maybe is not the right time to do an official opening if you're not, let's say, part of the family. The other point is the island mentality. When people talk about the island mentality, and you can have an island mentality even if you're not an island. It's not only because you're an island. But the island mentality, there is somewhat that linking to the resistance to change. And we have seen in these days, because going online for some of the people here is extremely complicated, because it's like there is a resistance to change, resistance to innovation. It was better the way we were used to do it. But then the island mentality is also that idea that we are better because we are always do like this, and so we can do it better. We don't need anyone to come to explain to us what we are doing. This is why a program that we started, that we called the Global Malta, was try to present Maltese and foreigners what actually Maltese and foreigners can bring to Malta in terms of innovation, but respecting the traditions in Malta. So there were Maltese, like proudly Maltese, and also foreigners that they fell in love with Malta and something that was typically Maltese, but they're trying now to develop this in a different way. We have designers, we have restaurants, and in the Global Malta, we go around the island and we show all these businesses, try to break a little bit this island mentality and facilitate this encounter. Another case, and feel free to like post anything in the chat box and we'll read it at the end. The other case is a UK manager, and was like, and I was shocked. We were looking for someone to do the job, and generally we issue a call and collect various options before going for the best offer in terms of expertise and price. But suddenly the Maltese manager said, we can ask my father-in-law. And all the Maltese team agreed that that was actually the best option. As they explained to me later after the meeting, a relative will never let you down. Well, how can you trust a stranger? And again, maybe you can already pick something about what is in terms of intercultural management and intercultural communication. In this case, I would like to use the idea of trust and how you build trust in the way Meyer explained and discussed it in her book. And trust in Malta is relationship-based. You build trust building a relationship. It's not about the task that you're good at or that you complete in time, but it's about the relationship you build. Trust is also linked to reputation. It's an island, it's a small island, and the people are all connected. Maybe they're relatives or they all know each other. And so reputation is extremely important. This is why you have to be good in what you do. You have to be there to do the work, but you also have to be good, because your reputation can easily be affected, and then it will be kind of forever, because the island is small and everyone will describe what you did. The other important point is you have to build relationship with the locals. So you have to spend time in building relationship with the locals. So you have to involve locals in your business. I have a lot of people that contact me on LinkedIn because they want to do business in Malta. And my suggestion is always, you have to come to Malta. I can help you. I can facilitate the internationalization process for you. But you have to come. You have to meet your clients. You have to meet your potential service provider. You have to meet the people. You have to spend time with them, and you have to gain their trust. And to gain their trust, it's also important to meet them in person. I had a video maker from UK, and he spent like 2 weeks in Malta and 2 weeks in UK in the last couple of years. And he was like, for me in Malta is a lot of waste of time and energy, because I have to go all over the island to meet people. Why we cannot just do a Skype call? And actually, no, you cannot do just a Skype call, because people want to meet you, want to have a coffee with you, want to spend time with you. We know as Italian also, it is important to have lunch together, have dinner together, have coffee together, and spend time and discuss not only about the business, but maybe also about our family, about something else that is not only related to the business. So it's not a waste of time and energy, but actually you're building trust and you're building relationship for your successful business. And then the last point that is also linked to this one, and I think that people in Malta have experienced this, and if you're foreigners, maybe you have you were also surprised maybe, is like, as I mentioned before, why don't we meet for a coffee? Is also because it's can be described as a high context culture, so they prefer face-to-face communication over technology communication, but also like trust and being high context culture. Having a contract can also be sometimes that is not approved, that there is no trust. I remember, of course you have your contract, but sometimes it's also that they are sorry. I had a client, and after 1 year we were working together, I finally had the contract to sign, and they were kind of sorry, because for them was like, it's not that we don't trust you, so sorry for this contract, but it's because legally we need this contract. And I was like, no, but it's fine. But I couldn't understand the point that like trust based on the personal connection, you don't need the contract. You don't think you need the contract. So just to close with my part, so with the first session, what I described to you so far, I would say is the Maltese Malta, and it's something that you have to have in mind when you come to Malta. But that I show you at the beginning, the Maltese language and the two words, you also have to consider the British heritage. And we'll explore this also a little bit at the end. But you have to consider this because the people you are talking with, because Malta was an ex-colony, an ex-British colony. And the British has still an influence in Malta. And sometimes the people you speak with, maybe they have their Anglo-Saxon mentality, their Anglo-Saxon mindset. So in intercultural communication, you have kind of switch to the other, let's say, model. And so consider them more people that want to go straight to the point, people that want more, they trust you on a task base. So you can also find all of this in Malta, and you always have to have this in mind when you go to a meeting, when you go to a class, because in the same meeting, in the same room, in the same company, you will find probably these two different souls of the country. And then tourism. Why tourism? Because Malta, yeah, was an ex-colony, and they are used to have people coming to Malta and going. So it was the British, before there were the Knights of Malta, before there were the Sicilians, but then also is a country that they used to tourism. So to have people coming on holiday and then go. So this idea of having people coming for doing business for a longer period is something that is not so, it's something they're not used to. So it's not that they don't trust you or they don't consider you one of them, but they're not used to have someone that want to invest to the island for a long period of time, or there is this idea of, yeah, but it will not be for longer, because we already have experienced that everyone that came, then they came and then they went. So these are two things you also have to have in mind when you want to like start a business in Malta and want to gain trust and gain the trust and build the relationship with the Maltese. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Viviana. So in the meantime, please feel free to raise your hand if you want to ask a question directly, and I will give you the opportunity to talk. But we can go a little bit through the comments, and then we can answer some of the questions. The first one was by Sylvia when you were explaining about the language, and she's saying that it's only Semitic language, which is written with an Latin alphabet. So that's quite interesting. I think it's when you read bonjour, it was an easy way of writing instead of the difficult way that French, for me at least, writes. Yes. It's also saying that the best publicity that we can have is by the
word of mouth. Word of mouth. Exactly. This is it's totally linked to reputation. If you're here, if you're part of the network, if you're good, and then it's word of mouth that you have the best publicity. Yeah.
Totally. Well, I guess this is also very important for companies who want to make marketing there. Instead of investing thousands of euros, they can invest more into activities that can show around the opportunity for people to speak.
Yeah.
And Irene is writing a really nice example of culture projections that did not check what was the local culture, but they assumed that their ideas could be copy-paste from the first case study with the Italian.
Yes. Yes, we had a lot of that, yeah, that they think that a copy-paste, and I think it's for Malta, but probably for also other countries. And actually we know that it's not just copy-paste, because if you copy-paste, you can take.
Okay, we have also 2 more minutes. If somebody else wants to raise any questions or make any comments, please feel free to do so. Well, okay, we're going to have also opportunities in the end to make a discussion. So please feel free to write your ideas or thoughts if you don't want to forget them. And in the meantime, pass the word to Alessia. Thank you, Alessia.
Yes. Hello, everyone. My name is Alessia Casale. I'm speaking from Milan, Lombardy region, the heart, unfortunately, of the coronavirus outbreak. So I've been spending 20 years in supporting small and medium-sized enterprises to go abroad in their internationalization process. And in 2018, I had the chance to join a multicultural team in a multicultural region, or better state, that is Iraq. Leading Module 2 of an international project devoted to foster private sector development and employment opportunities in Iraq, in a post-conflict state. So my task was to support Iraqi Business Association in capacity building and to rebuild their organizational set, and to create business development services. And I led a team of 4 people, and our team was composed of German, Iraqis, mostly of them, and Italian. So the first issue was a multicultural team in, I will repeat, multicultural country. So we can see the strategical and geopolitical position of Iraq, which is bordered by 6 different states, and is called from the ancient times the Fertile Crescent. Is run through Tigris and Euphrates rivers, which reminds us of history and Mesopotamia. And some key data, because they are very important to give us the framework. Iraqi population doubled in 25 years, and the number of returnees amounts roughly at 5 million, mostly of them coming from Syria, Turkey, West Bank and Gaza Strip, and Iran. And we have almost 1,500,000 IDPs, that is internal displaced person. So this gives us the numbers of a multicultural layer population. Is rich and has a very high diversity of ethnic, tribe, and religion group, because 2 out of 3 of Iraqi population belongs to tribes. Mostly of them belongs to Arab ethnic group. Then we have the Kurds, and then we have other estimated 5%, including Turkmen, Yazid, Shabah, Kaha, Bedouin, Romani, Assyrian, Circassian, Sabian, Mandean, Persian. Some of them were heated and persecuted during Daesh periods. And concerning religion, Muslim religion, well, Islam religion is practiced by mostly the population and is split into main different groups, Shia and Sunni. But there is also a small percentage of Christian, including Catholic, Orthodox, Protestant, and Syrian Church of East. Last key data is about the age and the unemployment youth percentage, because you can see from the statistics that mostly of the population is very young. They belong to in between 25, 54 years, 36% of the population. But the unemployment, the worst number belongs to the youth age. So in between 15 and 24 years, you have a total unemployment rate of 25. Take into consideration that these figures, this data belongs to estimation made by CIA World Factor 22, but belonging to 2070. But we have recently the clashes in October has occurred. So unemployment has increased. To give you the framework, before entering a nation having an international cooperation project, you have to map and assess the set and the rule of law, the economic framework, and the business environment. So the project was already been drafted and written by the International Government Cooperation Agency, and I will highlight the words put: corruption, bribery, money laundering, nepotism, and misappropriation of public funds in the rule of law. As far as business environments, there is almost absence of efficient regulatory policies. So it makes very difficult the existence and the development of a private sector. Take into consideration that 98% of GDP in Iraq comes from oil and gas sector. And there are out of the population we have considered, 5 million works as public officers. We have a very wide and broad set of informal job. So, as mentioned before, when you cope with an international cooperation project, apart from the SWOT analysis, you have to draft and make a very accurate analysis over potential and adverse impact factors. So we try to discover, to highlight which are the potential and the adverse impacts. The potential lie into reforms, private sector, public sector reforms to rebuild the country and transfer and diversify the economy. The potential are lying in the public dialogue between public sector and private sector, public academia, that is university, polytechnic, departments, and individuals such as professor, and private sector, corporate and small and medium-sized enterprises, startup, small businesses run by young, mostly of them refugees, run by women, run in the southern parts, I mean in the Iraq, in the northern part, in the Kurdish area. While the adverse impact is what what happened during the clashes of October. That is the factor, the element of unemployment and hopelessness took the roots. So before entering a project, you must assess, select, and identify the target groups, that is the beneficiaries, and the stakeholders, the strategic actors. Each international project must identify the adequate approach, and this project adopted a multi-stakeholder approach. I will pass through very quickly through Module 1 and Module 2 target groups and stakeholders who were different. I leaded the Module 2 for SMEs and startup promotion, while the Module 1 was devoted to economic and investment promotion. I mean, one was the framework, the institutional framework. The second module was very operative. So you can see among the target groups of Module 1, the individuals and the stakeholders of Module 1, NGO and civil society organization. Module 2, target groups, we have unemployed, underemployed, young people and potential migrants and returnees, and among the stakeholders, the trainers, the educators, educational school, NGO, university providers of business services, and private sectors, chambers and associations. And what I have to do, what I could cope with a multicultural team in a multicultural with states as Iraq, with a broad diversity of race, religion, and culture. So I made use of hosted cultural dimension. I made a comparison before my deployment, and it emerged that power distance, individualism, long-term orientation, and indulgence were the key divergent elements. So this dimension could impact the achievement of the international project outcomes. You know that in each international project, outcomes and output must be fully reached and carried out. So the entire project was designed in order to avoid that this dimension could break the achievement of the international project outcomes. So power distance could affect and impact leadership and decision-making procedure. Individualism could affect team building. Long-term orientation could impact the outcomes, the indicators, and the project planning. And last, the indulgence is the less, I would say, the most soft, because while in Iraq they have a work ethic, in Italy we have a leisure ethic. So the director, the project director, together with the staff, we try to implement some measure to cope and to facilitate the achievement of the outcomes, take into consideration this cultural dimension. So some measures were taken. As far as power distance, it was arranged a kick-off meetings to create a real team environment. I proposed the organization of weekly team session in order that each team members could express his, her, this or agreement to the milestone of the project and to acknowledge team member individual achievements and the possibility also to delegate. We fostered team commitment environment, and we shared and we boost information exchange. As far as the second cultural dimension, individualism, we highlighted team goals, we promote a cooperative orientation, and we encourage team building approach together with generating a team accountability. Then this was very, very challenging, the long-term orientation, the meaning, the development of the time is completely disrupting for us. I mean, mid-term or long-term outcome were really taken into a risk by the long-term orientation of Iraqi culture. So it was designed an efficient and strict monitoring and evaluation system, strictly narrow governance framework, and we also established team indicators review to be reviewed weekly. And to find out an equilibrium, we created a sort of blended ethic in between work and pleasure ethic of the two cultures, valuing the assignments, the individual assignments, involving people, team members in decision-making process, and generating mutual reliance. And I think that we did it well. We did a good job because I spent not a long time. It was a short time, a short experience. But it was very intense and tough. But I think we created the dynamic and the system in which a multicultural team could start working in a multicultural environment. So I'm ready to any of your suggestions, to your questions. I think that I stick to my scheduled time. And I would like to thank Gradiola and Viviana for giving me this opportunity.
Thank you very much. And it was perfect timing, and also very interesting and quite intense information, I have to say. So far, apologies, we have had questions regarding the first presentation, but I would want to let them for the last part of the meeting. And I would want to ask if you have any questions about this part of the presentation. And if you want to, I'll just raise your hand and I can also let you talk. Okay. So it's hard for me to follow because there was a hand being raised and being lowered. So please, okay, just write, yes, write in the chat, and I'm gonna give you access, please, because some hands were raised before. Would want to have access to speak. Sylvia is model 2, but this is a question regarding Alessia's presentation, right?
Yes, model 2. Yes, it's model 1 and model 2. Model 1 is what's focused over economic and investment promotion, while model 2 it was focused over SMEs and startup promotion, much more operational, I would say, than the institutional framework.
Okay, understand. Thank you. Marley, I'm allowing you to speak, so please ask your questions directly.
Yes, Alessia, I would like to have your confirm that at the end these strategies worked and the multicultural teams delivered in a multicultural way the collaboration and supporting each other.
Yeah, I can absolutely reply with yes. We were very collaborative and cooperative each other. I would say that it was a real discovery for me that Iraqi people is a wonderful population, and they were very cooperative towards us.
Which was the difficulties that, if there were, they encountered in maybe changing the approach in the team?
But you know, I had 4 people working with me. One of them belonging to the, I would say, old generation,
yeah.
And the other ones, a man. The other ones, 3 ladies belonging to the young generation.
Okay.
Their education was different, so there was an effort, a strength to cope with the problem, the issue of the languages, and the scheduling, the milestone of the project, because you have tasks, you have assignments, you have milestones, you have indicators. You have indicators must be assessed and reviewed weekly. And a monitoring and evaluation system very strict.
I think that planning and project an intercultural, setting before starting a project, it's the winning way to go through the target. Taking care of this kind of difference between the team workers and the cultural context. I'm very
empowering each of the team, and empowering and let them understand that each of us is valuable, even if it's a consultant or it's not a team leader, it's a member of the team, and the task and assignment of each of the team is reliable, is important, is valuable, is essential for the success of the entire team and the entire project as well.
The awareness of cultural sensitivity is very important, and this it's clear in what you present. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madhu. If anybody else wants the word, please let me know. There is 3 hands raised, but I have the impression that they were from the beginning. So if you do want to speak, please write in the chat box. I have a question actually, because there was some part explaining the steps that you were doing with the teams, and one of them was you were trying to foster commitment in a team. And I was wondering, how did you do it concretely? Because I work also in an international team, and I can see that when things get tough, people resign, people quit, people find different opportunities. And for us, for the remaining part of the teams, that means having to find somebody else to train from the beginning, not only for the tasks, but also for the organizational culture. That makes it very difficult. But not only, so I see commitment very difficult, but not only for the people who are leaving, but also for the people who are in the team, who want to express something, and when they don't agree with something, then they just completely let go of the task and they don't commit more to it. So I was wondering, what were the ways that you were fostering this commitment in the team?
Well, take into consideration that Iraq is a post-conflict country. So we have already analyzed the rate of unemployment rates. So no doubt about skipping of or quitting or resign, because there are no such good there were no such good alternative also in terms of economic offer in international cooperation projects. And I assign each week to each of my member team an assignment in order to be committed to deliver it at the scheduled time, and to have all the pieces of the puzzle together. I mean, I rely on you, Mr. etc., because we have to fill in this model, we have to fill in this assignment, and I rely on you, Mrs., because you are a very essential part of the project. On a commitment involving them on a personal and human relationship. Not being, okay, I'm the boss, just do it. No, never. But it's because we have a Latin style, differently from other, I would say, European population. We work over me, and the Italian work, and maybe Viviana could agree with me, we work over relationship, human touch.
I understand. Thank you very much. Well, we don't have any other questions regarding this part, so maybe we pass to the in-between where we combine both of the projects.
Yes, exactly. So our last couple of slides that we want to share with you. Them. And yet what we thought would also, how we can compare and what lesson we can learn also from the two cases, even if they are like different, they are far away, but there is also something that maybe working in an intercultural environment or working with intercultural management, sometimes we cannot consider, but actually working in Iraq and also in Malta is extremely important. I always tell my students they have to become a little bit also expert of geography, history, and also religion. And so I will start from religion, that is an extremely important, we know, part of the society in Iraq, as Alessia explained, and also religion in the sense that there is a dominant group. And you have to consider when you work to the dominant group, but also when you work with the minorities and what this can imply. Malta, they have, of course, like religion, their estimate. And also in the case of Malta, like 95% of the population is Catholic, Christian Catholic. But now, also due to the increase in the foreigners, there are more and more also other religions. There are Islam, there are Orthodox, and religion is still dominant. The Catholic religion is still dominant. And so you have to consider that, so that is the dominant religion. And this can have also implication in the calendar, in the events you organize, in when people is busy, when people is not busy. But also you have to consider when you work with the, let's say, dominant group in terms of religion, and when you work with the others, the most probably more important in Iraq, but this will become also something important to consider in Malta in terms of like diversity also of religion that then will have an impact on the society. The other point is the colonial heritage. And again, not only because they were both ex-colony, but also because we know that when one country is colonized, there is generally one group that one or more groups that they benefit from this like colonial period, colonial era, and some other groups that are oppressed. And this is something that we know for Iraq and ISIS. The narrative of ISIS was a lot about this like agreement that actually divided Syria and Iraq, and they want to build the Islamic State against actually that agreement that was a colonial agreement. And for Malta is also the colonial heritage is important because, yeah, Malta has two official languages, English and Maltese, but you don't have to take for granted that all they have to speak English. They speak English, and they will speak English. They will also speak Italian to help you and to communicate with you. But you also have to consider that for some of them, English was the language of the oppressor, let's say, and maybe that the time was not so easy for them. So maybe they are making an effort in speak with you in English. They also, of course, recognize that speaking English nowadays, it open a lot of like international business, and they have all the English language schools. But also, this part of the history is not, for some of them can also be a part that was like, it is telling a sad story, a story of oppression. And so you have to consider this. And this is the same in Iraq, and it is even more recent than in the case of Malta. And then I will leave last point for Alessia.
Yes. The strategic position, geopolitical interest, we have already mentioned. You can see that we have seen from the map that it's Iraq is border with 6 countries. One of them, Syria, and you mentioned correctly ISIS, Daesh, which try to create the caliphate. And it's something you can, if you have studied history, I completely agree with Viviana. When you approach, you enter in the culture of another population, another nation, you have to be aware about history, geography, the language, and how to negotiate with them, because your perspective is completely different. And the strategic position of Iraq, which I remind you is the old Mesopotamia, gives you the borders, the framework of its importance for geopolitical and economical reasons. So in any cultural dimension must be approached and studied, taking into consideration all the factors, all the elements which could be the cause and effects at the same time.
Well, thanks a lot. So maybe we go a little bit over the questions were asked before. This is for Viviana. And then we see if for these explanations that you have, we have more questions about it. Or do you still have to? Okay, we have another slide. Okay, so you can present also the other slide.
Yes, just to conclude, because everything started with just like having a global mindset. So it just a little bit of what we mentioned today. You have, according to us, what we have learned also, if have a global mindset means that you have to be curious what was out there also before maybe going to an international assignment, before going to like open a business in a new country. Be curious, like learn, train yourself on a personal and professional level. Then be aware that they have a different perspective and the context is different than what you're used to. Recognize the value, as Alessia mentioned before, recognize the value of your teammate, of the country, not just coming with like a superior approach or consider yourself better. Promote the engagement, the active engagement also, involve the locals, involve if you have a multicultural team, and also being accountable and make them accountable, because at the end of the day, the best way to like recognize also the steps then when you go forward and when you can, what you can improve. Yeah, this is just to conclude.
Thank you very much. We have a question for you, Viviana, from Romina, and we go then to the other questions. So if you have a very small family, you risk to be left out, it says, for your presentation about Malta, or if you are a foreigner and you apply for a job, you risk not to receive that job, even if you're the best candidate, if somebody else almost as good as you applies for it and has a relative that works there?
Okay, yeah, that's interesting, and probably it would be, I think I have another course in equality that can be also linked to that, because so I would say that, yeah, that as I mentioned before, you have to consider like that there is some British heritage and some, let's say, Maltese heritage, they are combined. So it depends on what are the company when you're doing the interview, what are the person who are recruiting you, but then, yeah, maybe if you are a local and the other point is, yeah, maybe if you have the same qualification and they know you because you are a local, because you are a relative, or also because, as we have mentioned before, you have built link and trust with the locals, yeah, maybe you will be higher and not as a totally, let's say, foreigner, But then there is the other point, that is reputation. So then if you're not good, and so that your reputation will be affected, and probably then the foreigners will be hired. So it's not only that you have to be well connected, but it's also that you have to be good. Then of course this maybe it's not happen all the time, but reputation is extremely important, I would say, at the same level of like personal connections.
Thank you. Lucia is asking, and I guess this applies for both of you, what do you suggest to do to a foreigner to have a right cultural picture of the local people?
Do you want to start, or I start?
Can you hear me? Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. There is not a right or wrong cultural picture. There is, I would say, the cultural picture to enter in good relation and trust. I mean, nothing is completely right or wrong, but before to create your cultural picture with the local people, you have to study, you have to collect information. I remember I made a dramatic collection of information about about Iraq, and it was not easy because, as you know, 2 years ago it was also, it was even Daesh still well acting in Iraqi land. So it was not easy for me to collect, to speak with other person. If you can, you travel. If you can, you collect information of other projects, of other similar projects. You create your relations of contacts. This is as far as Iraqi. Viviana?
Yes, no, I totally agree, and I would also add that in the sense that the more you can, I think you have to be out there if you can. It's not the case of Iraq, but maybe you can still meet Iraqis in Milano. You can really try to like explore all the options to know the culture, to know the people. I remember the first year I was in Malta, I went to all the festa, all the celebration that they have, because because when you are an expat, you can also stay in, let's say, your expat bubble and only being with expat. That is good, because then you learn a lot of other cultures, but maybe you don't really understand the local cultures. Where I was everywhere where the locals were like meeting or doing something, I was reading something, try to really understand the culture I was in.
Okay, thank you very much. We have a comment from, I think is Madly, who says, it is not easy to know the hidden part of the cultural iceberg by only studying history and geography or religion, but it also includes to be curious. So I think just to enforce what you were explaining before.
Yeah.
It's another comment regarding the Maltese.
Yeah.
Then I would make the question if this is true for Iraqi. Unfortunately, it is not hard only for foreigners, also for the Maltese. I don't know somebody, I do not have much opportunity. Which is also present in the Iraqi culture, that you need to have connection, be able to have a job, given also the high number of unemployment.
Could you please repeat, because the communication was completely lost. The last questions, Gradioli, please.
Sure. So Silvia is saying that
Okay.
it's difficult not only for foreigners, but also for Maltese people to find a job where they don't have the connections.
Mm-hmm.
And I was wondering and asking the same questions regarding the Iraqi culture, also based on the high number of unemployment, which means there is a lot of competition. Does it mean that do they have the same culture, that you need to have connections to be able to find a job?
Yes, you must be, well, to find a job, first of all, you must be available and skilled person. But if you are the cousin of the cousin, the nephew or the niece or whatever, in the trust and trusted and related to the job seeker, you have a jolly cards.
I understand. I have also another question, which is kind of a logical connection. You are supposed to be the best and have more opportunities, but if there is a high unemployment rate, you don't get that opportunity to have some experience to be the best. So then you kind of have to rely on your connections to have that first opportunity, at least, to be able to differentiate yourself from other people who just graduated, I guess.
Yes, or the option is to fly abroad. You have a very huge number of young Iraqis, like other states, neighbor states, who flew abroad to get their PH, to get job opportunities.
I understand. Do you think how many people do come back though after they go abroad? I believe that's a small number.
A small number. I haven't the recent updated figures or data, but listen, it's still a post-conflict state. If you remember the clashes in October 2019, especially in the southern part in Basra, for the shortage of water. Because you know that water is considered in Middle East the blue gold. You can see that most of the brilliant graduated, especially from Polytechnic, because there is a very high number of scientific graduates, medicine, engineering, computer science, architecture. If they don't find in between 1-2 years works, they flew abroad. They flew abroad, or they go in the northern part of Iraq, Kurdish area, which is more vivid, I would say, more easy to find a job, or to create your small business.
I understand. Okay, thank you very much, ladies. We ran a little bit over time, but it was a very interesting discussion, I believe. I want to thank you once again for taking the opportunity and for doing this wonderful presentation for us. This is a recorded webinar, so we are going to put it on the YouTube channel and share the webinar with you, where you're going to have also a follow-up email with the contacts of both ladies. So in case you have more questions, you can follow up directly with them. So thank you very much, and I hope to see you on our next.
Thank you very much for the
Thank to
opportunity.
you, Gabriela, and Sietar, and Viviana, of course.
Thank you. Bye-bye.